There's a lot about the NFL you definitely don't know. Futuristic technology implanted in the pigskin, a game ending due to a beer bottle barrage, and the most unique MVP you've never heard of. Here are 15 of the wildest things you didn't know about the NFL. And at number 15 is a stadium catastrophe. In 2010, the Vikings had to move a game on game day to an arena nearly 700 miles away because the original plans for the game completely fell through. In the middle of the night, a 1.5 feet of snow crashed through the roof, avalanching onto the barren field. The wildest part? That was the 5th time the Metrodome's roof had collapsed. What's even crazier is what we have at number 14. You probably think America's most popular TV broadcast is something like The Bachelor, with almost 10 million viewers. Except that's like 100 million viewers short of the record. The most viewed is Super Bowl 49, 114 million viewers. In fact, the big game has 29 out of the top 30 most watched TV broadcasts in U.S. history. The only non-Super Bowl in the top 30? The final episode of MASH in 1983. But the ending of MASH isn't the only tragedy. At number 13 is Cleveland's Orlando Brown, who was one of the highest paid offensive linemen in the entire league. Then, December 19th, 1999 happened. Against Jacksonville, referee Jeff Triplett chucked a penalty flag directly into Brown's right eye. He was left partially blind and sued the NFL for $200 million since Cleveland dropped him after the injury. They settled for $25 million, but Brown missed 3 seasons and was never the same. And number 12 is something you definitely didn't know has become an essential part of the football itself. You know how you're able to see next-gen stats while watching from home? Well, in 2015, the league started testing out a new technology in the pigskin. There are chips No, not those kind of chips. Microchips in the football that detect how far the ball traveled and the speed in which it traveled. The chipped footballs are only accurate to within 6 inches of the actual spot, and they don't account for the player's knee or elbow being down. So it's mainly just used for data collection and marking things like punts out of bounds for now. But the chain gang might want to start looking for a new job because the technology is only getting better. But the NFL commissioner never needs to worry about another job. Taking us to number 11. Roger Goodell makes more than every player. Yes, more than the $500 million man himself, Patrick Mahomes, and even the newly highest paid NFL player in league history by annual amount, Lamar Jackson, who makes a lowly $52 million a season. Since 2021, Roger Goodell has averaged $64 million per year. And now for number 10, we're talking about arguably the worst fan behavior in NFL history. Did you know that a game once ended because fans were launching unidentified flying objects onto the field? In 2001, Cleveland needed a win to remain in the playoff picture, but trailed Jacksonville 15-10 with just a minute left. On fourth down, Tim Couch found Quincy Morgan for the first down, even though it looked like Morgan lost control of the ball. Cleveland quickly spiked the ball, but the officials still reviewed the fourth down play and overturned it. A blatant illegal call as another play had already been run. This cost Cleveland the game, so the hometown fans bombarded the field with beer bottles. The players and officials quickly ran off the field with time still on the clock in fear of being pelted, but the league office wasn't having it. They informed the teams that they had to get back out on the field and finish the game. So each team sent out 11 random players to run a couple of QB meals and get out of there. I don't know whose idea it was to provide the Cleveland faithful with beer bottles as ammo, but that was never going to end well. And because of this, many stadiums across the country banned the sale of beer in bottles. And the event is now infamously known as the Bottlegate. And that's almost as insane as the idea that sparked number 9. Did you know that there used to be a separate football league outside of the United States? And huge names you know played there. In 1991, the NFL established a 10-team European league, ironically naming it the World League of American Football, later changing it to NFL Europe in 1998. It was designed as a developmental program, much like the G League for the NBA. The biggest names that were part of this league include Kurt Warner, Jake Delhomme, Adam Vinatieri, and even Terry Crews. But in 2007, the league fizzled out because the games were simply just not fun to watch, and they were losing $30 million a year. And quality over quantity is the reason number 8 came to be. In 1999, the New Orleans Saints traded every single pick they had for one very unique player. The backstory is so ridiculous that ESPN even made a hilarious magazine cover with that player and Saints head coach Mike Ditka together because of the lengths that were taken. New Orleans' draft that year consisted of 6 total picks, but it gets crazier. One of those picks was already the number 12 overall spot in the draft, but that wasn't high enough to get the player they wanted. So New Orleans traded all 6 picks and a first and third rounder for the next draft to Washington Washington for just the number 5 overall pick. Then the Saints drafted Ricky Williams, a running back. People lose their minds when running backs go in the first round these days. Could you imagine trading your entire draft for one? As expected, this ended horribly, as the Saints went 3-13 that year, and Mike Ditka was fired after the season. But our next fact at number 7 shows way more sacrifice. Green Bay Packers fans have waited nearly a whole lifetime to get season tickets. Literally, the current wait list for these tickets is over 140,000 people, and only 70 to 100 new tickets are handed out each year. So some of these fans have waited over 50 years to get a hold of these precious tickets. At that rate, you'd have a better chance of actually playing in the NFL. And that takes us to number 6. If you're from one very specific island, you are over 50 times more likely to play in the NFL than anyone else. American Samoa is an island with a population under 60,000 people. Yet, there are more than 30 players of Samoan descent in the NFL today, and over 200 playing Division I college football. That would be like 30 NFL players coming out of Youngstown, Ohio. Oh, you've never heard of that city? Yeah, that's the point. According to CBS News, a Samoan male is 56 times more likely to play in the NFL than any other American. No wonder they call it Football Island. Now, for number 5, we think the NFL sent out the wrong script with this one. This had to be a mean joke when they wrote this guy in as league MVP. This player is the only person in NFL history to win MVP at this position. In 1982, Washington's Mark Mosley set a record, making 20 out of 21 field goals, 95.2%. Yes, a kicker won the NFL's Most Valuable Player award. The funniest part, that same year, Washington won Super Bowl 17, but Mosley missed 4 field goals during that playoff run. And at number 4, we have the Buffalo Bills, who not only struggled against one very specific division, but in the worst way possible. From 1990 to 1994, Buffalo played in 4 straight Super Bowls, lost every single one, and it was all to teams in the same division. They lost to the Giants, the Redskins, and the Cowboys twice. They could just not figure out the NFC East, and they haven't made it to the big game since. But this next team wasn't even winning playoff games. At number 3 is the team that set the winless playoff drought record that still stands to this day. This team has literally moved to more cities than playoff games they've won, moving from Chicago to St. Louis and finally to where they reside today, Arizona. In 1998, they finally won in the postseason, beating the Cowboys 20-7. Over the course of 50 years, the Cardinals won 0 playoff games. But hey, by this time, some Green Bay Packers fans could finally start getting season tickets. And if you think that was horrible, number 2 is horrific. Why? Because it's related to the Chicago Bears. The Bears hold some of the weirdest records, but this one takes the cake. Every single other franchise in the league has a quarterback that has accomplished this next feat, except for the Bears. They are the only NFL team without a 4,000-yard passer. The closest they ever got was in 1995, when Eric Kramer threw for 3,838 yards. Who will be the first Windy City signal caller to break this curse? But all of this is nothing compared to the absurdity we have at number 1. There's absolutely no way that you know the astronomically young age of the youngest Pro Football Hall of Fame inductee. Keep in mind that you have to be at least 5 years removed from your playing career to even be eligible for Canton. Now, with that said, who's the youngest player? Ironically, he was a Chicago Bear, but a running back, Gail Sayers. He played just 7 seasons, from 1965 to 1971, was the NFL's leading rusher twice, and was a 5-time first-team All-Pro. Then, in 1977, he was inducted into the Hall of Fame at just 34 years young, a feat that could remain intact forever.